Hey everybody, so today we have our trusty 2015 Jeep Grand Cherokee. Got about 83,000 miles on the clock, and today, I don't know if you can see in the camera, but the check engine light is on up there. So we're going to troubleshoot and see what's going on. So first step, let's get the laptop and plug in our OBD2 scanner. Alright, so I got my Lenovo ThinkPad here plugged into the OBD2 port with a YTech MicroPod, one of those Chinese clones. I think I covered this in previous videos. So we're going to boot up YTech. A little flaky, but it works. You see we detected our vehicle here. We got our 2015 WK. Hopefully you can see that. Zoom in a little bit. Yeah, that should be a little bit better. Select our vehicle. Go next. Get out of there. Then we'll go to work offline. We're not going to be doing anything with Tech Authority. So now we're scanning the vehicle. Ah, looks like we might need a thermostat. So here we have a reverse lamp shorted to ground. That's just a wiring problem in the vehicle. That's been that way. It's just a flaky wiring connection. That's a body BCM code. Channel 3 audio speaker output circuit open. That's new. I don't remember seeing that. Memory switch input stuck. Driver door module. Key fob 2 battery low. I think I fixed that one already, but this one looks like it's for thermostat rationality. And I think I did a video on this previously on another Grand Cherokee with the exact same problem, just changing the thermostat. It was the same year as well, but it was a neighbor's vehicle. So let's troubleshoot that a little bit more. The vehicle is not really at operating temperature, but let's look at the freeze frame data. What I'm guessing is that the thermostat is stuck open. This happened very recently, 83,271 miles. Actually, not that. That didn't happen that recently. It's 400 miles ago, but we'll look anyway. So let's see. Just looking here to see if I can find the coolant temp. There's a lot going on here. TPS. Oh, looks like there was a misfire too. I was at 62,000 miles. Where's our coolant temp? That's one of the things that's both good and bad about this scan tool. There's just so much data. Sometimes it takes a little while to comb through it. Battery voltage, 14 volts, fuel level, okay. Engine RPM. Where's the coolant temp? Did I scroll past it?
New text message from Shervin Shoulder.
Okay. Intake air temp. Oh, there you go. Freeze frame engine coolant temp, 178. So that's low. I wonder how long it had been running for. Is there a run time here? I know there's probably some kind of clock here, right? Engine RPMs. I'm just looking to see if this is like when the engine was first started or if it had been running for a while. Just skimming through here, I don't see anything here that indicates that. But I might just be glossing over it. But regardless, so it looks like this vehicle needs a thermostat, which is not that uncommon. We've seen that before. And I'm guessing that's why our code is stored. So this is... Let's clear our DTCs. So our check engine light should go off. It did not because our thermostat rationality.
Text messages.
It did not because our thermostat rationality code is still stored. There we go, I found it. It's under environmental data, so the accumulation timer is 25 minutes. So what that means is that this vehicle was probably running for 25 minutes and the engine did not reach operating temperature. So that's That's a problem. So that's kind of what that thermostat rationality code means. If the engine's running for 25 minutes, it should be at operating temperature, which is close to maybe 200, 205 degrees. Really depends. So we probably have a thermostat that was or is stuck open. And you can see here, our engine coolant temp running right now is 212 degrees. So that's definitely more plausible for this vehicle than 178. So we're going to go ahead and replace the thermostat. Okay, it's a couple days later. Now, normally I would order an OEM part for a thermostat just because I like the reliability. It's pretty important that the part work correctly. Unfortunately, there is a national back order with no ETA on this part. So the Chrysler part cannot be found anywhere, at least not right now. I've called dealers, I've looked on Amazon, I've looked on Rock Auto, I've looked all my usual suppliers, can't find it anywhere. I was able to find that Chrysler does not actually make the part. It's made by a company whose brand name is spelled Mahle. I don't know how it's pronounced. And that part appears to be the part that Chrysler uses, because if you look carefully at the pictures, you can see the logo scratched off. The Chrysler, you know, that little star thing, it's scratched off. So Mahle or Mahle, however you pronounce it, they make the OEM part, at least that's where the indications point. I found some pictures of this part that you see in front of me right here, this Motorad part, and they had the same, their part had the same look as the Mahle part. Let's take a look and see what I actually got though. So this part number is an 823203. See if I got lucky here, or if someone just did some photo pirating. No, this does not look like the same part. So the OEM part has this area here looks different. There's like a raised edge here, almost like a, I don't know, like a strengthening portion. There is also some engraving here with a brand name BEHR, which I believe is the Mahle aftermarket brand. This one, as you can see, says Motorad, so it's not made from the same injection mold, or at least doesn't look like it. That said, this part did get pretty good reviews, and I can't afford to have this vehicle down endlessly. So we're going to install it and hope for the best. Now, there are some other alternatives that also look the same as the Mahle part. Gates, the belt and hose and rubber company, they make a thermostat as well. And actually, if you look at the pictures of that part on Rock Auto, it actually has the Mahle label on there, M-A-H-L. So the Gates part might be just simply a relabeled OEM part. This one does not appear to be so, unfortunately. Took a gamble, I lost. Hopefully it works out though. Okay, got the vehicle hood open. If you recall, I have done this repair procedure before on a different Grand Cherokee. I think that was a couple of years ago. It was also 2015, same problem manifestation, everything. The OEM part was available there. It is not here, sadly. So, just gonna follow the exact same procedure. Let's pop this plastic cover off. A lot of you gave me heat last time for not wanting to take this off of the other Jeep. So now your intake has to come off. Thermostat is right down in here. I'll get you guys in closer once I get closer. But you generally want to be careful right here, because this tube right here likes to break. I think it did on the last Jeep. Yeah, pretty much. So let's get started. Let's get this intake off. Okay, so let's take, I'm just unscrewing the clamp that holds on the intake pipe to the throttle body back here. It's easiest to do with a stubby screwdriver, just a little hose clamp. As long as it's loose, we'll remove this, I think it's the intake air temp sensor, like so. I'm going to take some wire cutters. Since I already broke this connector once, I put a zip tie right here to hold this wiring harness to the intake. Yeah, I guess it's a wiring harness. All right, so what else is holding this thing in? There's a clamp over on the air cleaner. So we'll undo that as well. And once the intake is out of the way, I have a lot more room to work and see. There we go. This has to slide off like that. Again, be careful of this pipe because it breaks easily. Yeah, okay. All right, so here's our thermostat. Let's get you guys in closer. Okay, now you're going to want to loosen this clamp. Take off your thermostat bolts. They're, I think they're installed at 108 inch-pounds of torque. They're not that tight. Get a hose clamp. Want to put a basin underneath the vehicle to catch the coolant that spills out. You'll lose some. So make sure you have some coolant on hand to replenish what you spill or lose. Just got to work this clamp out of the way. Now, if your vehicle has a lot of miles and your hoses aren't in the greatest shape, now is a great time to deal with that. But these hoses seem to be fine. Try to minimize coolant loss. Doing a thermostat in this vehicle really is super easy. Now the service manual probably tells you to use a special tool to bleed the air out of the system, but I've never had to do that, at least not on this vehicle. I do have the tool though, but don't need to use it. You do want to try avoid getting coolant on the belt, but it was kind of unavoidable in this case because of the location of the thermostat. So we'll yank this off, spill coolant everywhere. I'm sure most of it's going to get missed by our pan, which is fine. Make sure there's no dogs in the neighborhood to lap it up. The part's definitely different looking. OEM looks beefier, so I might be doing this procedure again, not too distant future. But I need a working car. Just putting the hose back on the new thermostat. Make sure the seal is off the engine block. I think I lost the battery in my light. All right, let's bolt this guy back into place. So again, make sure the seal is off the engine. You can see that it's stuck here, so. Sure hope this thing works, otherwise I get to do this repair again. And you guys have to put up with me doing it again. I'm doing, like I said, 108 inch-pounds. Not foot-pounds, inch-pounds. Big difference. snap these bolts like twigs if you do foot-pounds. Click. Click. Let's put our hose back in place. These days I probably should treat myself and buy a proper pair of hose clamp pliers, because the channel locks just don't always cut it. There we go. All right. Okay, now I think we're ready to replenish the coolant that we spilled. If any of it got on the ground, just for the dog lover me, please make sure you hit it with a garden hose. Just make it so no animal ingests it, because this stuff is pretty toxic. So now I unplugged the intake air temp sensor. I think that was the only thing, right? Probably. Let's see how we're doing on coolant level. Just opening the radiator cap over here. Could use a bit more. We'll top that off with some Mopar anti-freeze coolant. I'll leave a link in the description, assuming it's still available. Not expecting that to put too much in here. I also don't have too much to put in here. Glug, 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 glug. This is the coolant that you do not add water. It comes pre-diluted, ready to use. And please, for the love of everything, please do not go to like your auto parts store and just buy like that green Prestone stuff. You cannot, it's not universal coolant. Use the factory stuff. Good enough. All right, so now we want to run the vehicle. I'm going to try, I don't remember if I did this in the last vehicle that I did this job on, but I'm going to open this bleeder screw here, which is not a hex. I thought the other one was a hex. No, it's not. We're going to use a flathead screwdriver just to open that bleeder screw. We're going to run the motor just to bleed any air out. Hopefully this thing doesn't snap. This will allow the air to leave the system. Let me just see how this screw is designed. Do we need to leave it out all the way, or does it have a notch in it? It's a very small notch in there, so we'll put it back in most of the way, about like that. We'll get the idle air control sensor plugged in, though it's not going to be doing anything because we have to get to that screw to close the vent. I'm just going to plug in the idle air control sensor, idle air intake temp sensor, just to not anger the computer. Again, it's not going to be doing anything. We'll let the vehicle start and warm up. Check for leaks and let all the air bleed out of the system. Stand back. All right, I think you guys may have missed that last recording. I think my phone was paired to the Uconnect system in the car. So I opened this bleeder screw, let a bit of coolant out, as you probably saw in the video. Just rinsed everything off, dried everything off with compressed air, and now we're just running it up to operating temperature. I'm gonna wait till I feel warm coolant go through this hose. I don't feel it yet. And looking at the temperature gauge, we're about a quarter of the way up, so we're getting warmer. Hopefully that thermostat opens at some point. And once that thermostat starts to open, we'll probably see some air bubbles come up out of the radiator fill cap. So I'm going to leave this open until the vehicle starts to get to operating temperature, and we'll top off the coolant if we need to, if we see this level drop. I think we might be starting to get some action from the thermostat. I'm starting to see the level in here bob up and down a little bit. Or is that just the camera? Hose is starting to warm up slightly. Getting there. And we're overflowing a tad. Oh, there it goes. Thermostat just opened. Sort of, maybe. Nope. Let's put our cap back on. Still air trapped in the system. Takes time. And you'll know when the thermostat opens, folks, this hose will get really hot. And it's too hot to hold on to for too long. So we'll let that circulate. That's gonna, again, there's still air in the system, so we gotta bleed that out. Don't wanna do it while the engine is boiling hot though. So I think we'll shut it down, we'll let it cool off a bit. All right, folks, we've been running for a while now. This hose is boiling hot. I don't see any leaks anywhere. I think it's time to put the intake tube back on. Shut the vehicle off. Okay, got the intake pipe back into position. Don't forget to put back on this emissions control thingy. I forget exactly what it's called. Just got to be careful not to break anything. This is all plastic. There are some grommets you have to pop this tube into. Why does it sound like the fire alarm is going off in my house? Okay, never mind. It might actually be easier to take off the air box to pop this grommet in there. I think we'll do that. Why doesn't this want to go in? And that grommet's like right under here. Oh, okay, there it goes. I think we're good now. So let's tighten the band clamp on clamp that holds the intake tube to the throttle body. Just using a stumpy screwdriver for that. Make sure it is fully engaged to the throttle body. Fasten your air box back into place if you took it off like I did. Reinstalled my zip tie over here. Secures that wire harness. Again, that's something that broke years ago. And that should be good. Now there are some cars out there where you need one of these kits. Like if you're doing a full coolant exchange in this car, I would use this kit. This is a pneumatic kit that you can use to remove air from the system. Leave a link in the description. As you can see, I don't use it very often. It's a pretty good kit though. Not that expensive. Maybe I think it's maybe 150 bucks. But when you price out the cost of having a dealer do your coolant exchange, it works out in your favor. So I'll leave a link to that in the description too. Didn't use it here because again, we don't have to. There's the finished vehicle with engine running. The check engine light will go off in time. I don't recall exactly how many driving cycles it takes off the top of my head, but the computer will eventually figure out that the thermostat is now functioning. So just give it time. If it bothers you, you can take it over to to AutoZone. They can read the codes, clear the codes for you. You could also do that if you don't have access to Y-Tech, which the vast majority of people on the planet do not. So yeah, just give it time. That check engine light should go off by itself. Job's done. Pretty easy, right folks? Anyway, this is the second thermostat you've seen me do on one of these vehicles. If you like this video, please subscribe. Stay safe. Thanks for watching, everybody. Take care. I'll let you know how this aftermarket thermostat works.